Hi, this is Scott Bradfield. This is week 6 of writing short stories online, and we're slowly mastering the art of YouTube. It hasn't been easy for me, but I'm mastering it. And we're going to talk, we have a guest writer this week. I hope you'll take advantage of this. I'm quite excited about this. This is new for City Lit and any online courses I know of to have other writers come visit. It's something I like to do when I'm running graduate level programs at universities, and I think it's fun to be able to do it for a further ed program online. So do please read our guest writer's story and take advantage of their presence this week. Today and next week I'm going to give 2 shorter lectures about point of view. This is the issue that comes up when I teach over and over again with my students. I basically focus on three main issues in everything we write as far as fiction, and I've already summarized those briefly in previous lectures. The first one is time, narrative time. We're watching things happen. We're not being told about them. So we would not write a story beginning, Bob Johnson was often going over to look at his neighbor's house and make sure everything was well because they were away, and he really liked going over there a lot. And that would be a very non-narrative sentence. A good narrative set of sentences might be, Bob crossed the hallway. It was dark. He heard a dog barking. He opened the door. Inside, a large clock was ticking. Now I'm summarizing and I'm making that up. But that's a series of narrative moments. It's roughly commensurate with what Carver's doing in his story, though he's doing it much better than I just did. And I want you to start thinking about what happens when you lose narrative time and you lose the most important thing, which is totally interlinked with time in fictional writing, which is point of view. So we'll talk about point of view today and next week. When Bob walks across the hall, we aren't being told Bob liked to go to the neighbor's house because he knew. That's that voice of the author that we have to destroy when we write fiction. We want to see the world as Bob sees it as he crosses the hall, as he enters the home. We do not need to be told we're seeing everything from Bob's point of view. Once we've established point of view, we can simply see things as he sees them. I'm going to give an example. I'm talking abstractly here, but the most important thing to remember is that when I try to point out things like point of view, I will explain it to you in many ways and as well as I can in our online discussions and when I comment on your stories and when we discuss stories in these lectures. But ultimately you have to go to good story writers and see how they're doing it and start to emulate them sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph. It's like me telling you how to ride a bike. I can tell you how to ride a bike. You put a foot on each pedal and you maintain your balance. That's useless until you've actually gotten on the bike and driven it. It's the only way you can do it. So let me just show you a couple examples today, and we'll continue the conversation next week. I'm going to read an opening paragraph from A Small Good Thing, so you can get this copy out and read with me, which would be good, because I want you to see this stuff on the page, and see how quickly he establishes point of view. Saturday afternoon, she drove to the bakery in the shopping center. Now immediately, we have something much more important than what her name is, who she is, what she's trying to do, what her purpose in life is, what her job is, what color her hair is. None of that stuff matters. What matters to us is we know our point of view is this woman and she's at the bakery. It's that simple, but you've got to follow through on what you've set up. Now look at the next sentences. And each of the next sentences is what she sees and does. And everything that she knows and we know is what she is going to see or know as she sees or knows it. After looking through a loose leaf binder with photographs of cakes taped onto the pages, she ordered chocolate, the child's favorite. The cake she chose was decorated with a spaceship and launching pad under a sprinkling of white stars and a planet made of red frosting at the other end. His name, Scotty, would be in green letters beneath the planet. The baker, who was an older man with a thick neck, listened without saying anything when she told him the child would be 8 years old next Monday. The baker wore a white apron that looked like a smock. Straps cut under his arms, went around and back, and then to the front again, where they were secured under his heavy waist. He wiped his hands on his apron as he listened to her. He kept his eyes down on the photographs and let her talk. He let her take her time. He'd just come to work, and he'd be there all night, and he was in no real hurry. Now, we're introduced to two characters here, a mother going to buy a birthday cake for her son, and a baker who is only seen through her eyes. Everything we see is that he's older, he has a thick neck. She doesn't know his name. How often do you know your baker's name? He wore a white apron. It looked like a smock. It looks like a smock to her. She doesn't know what it's called. Straps cut under his arms, went around and back. He wiped his hands on his apron as he listened to her. Now, this is not, as you can tell, a friendly man. We aren't told. She met a very unfriendly baker who wasn't very nice to her, and he didn't seem to like her very much, or he didn't like her very much because he had worked really hard. We're right in her head. We're seeing things around her. And we end that paragraph with, and he was in no real hurry. She gave the baker her name, Ann Weiss, and her telephone number. Now we have a character. We have a name. She's making the action. She's doing things to other people. She's presenting her name to someone. And she's the privileged part of the center of the room. Now, point of view has nothing to do with case. So it's not first person, third person. This is third person point of view. So she walks into the room, she does this. It could easily be first person. Okay, most of the time you could, if you're following the rules, you could open this sentence, this story. Saturday afternoon, I drove to the bakery in the shopping center. After looking through a loose leaf binder with photographs of cakes taped onto the pages, I ordered chocolate, my child's favorite. So you could switch. All the basic premises of fiction are already here. The time is operating the same. We're seeing the world through the central character's eyes, and things are happening to that character. Now, you can do that in third person, and third person is the easiest method of establishing point of view. It's the easiest one, really, particularly when you're learning. But what's important to know is you have to see things through that person's eyes. I'm going to give you one more example, and then I'll save the rest for next week. Let's skip to page 311. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see point of view shifting quite a lot. It's going to shift clearly from scene to scene. It won't shift as often as it does in Carver's earlier stories because he's more confident and he knows what he's doing. This is actually a revision, a substantial rewriting of an earlier story by Carver called Chef's House. And it might be worthwhile going back to see this earlier story. And a small good thing is he's getting older. Point of view shifts. He makes them much more confidently. He makes them very clearly. He doesn't do it too often, but he does it for a point. And on page 311, we suddenly shift to this is after the boy has been injured and he's in the hospital. And now we have the husband's point of view. And I'm just going to read a paragraph. He arrived back at the hospital a little after midnight. Anne still sat in the chair beside the bed. She looked up at Howard, and then she looked back at the child. The child's eyes stayed closed. The head was still wrapped in bandages. His breathing was quiet and regular. From an apparatus over the bed hung a bottle of glucose with a tube running from the bottle to the boy's arm. One of the things that helps establish point of view is it's the first subject of the scene. He arrived back at the hospital a little after midnight. Now we know it's his point of view. We're coming into the hospital with the husband. Anne still sat in the chair beside the bed. It's not. Anne had been waiting all night and had decided not to leave. That's a lazy sentence. He's seeing his wife. Anne still sat in the chair beside the bed. She looked up at Howard, and then she looked back at the child. So he comes in. He sees her still in this chair beside the bed. She looks up. She looks at the child. We're watching time occur through the point of view of the man. He's using time as clearly as he can, so we're seeing a series of actions. And this means that we're not always wondering where we're seeing the scene or who's seeing the scene. Now, I'm going to stop there because I want to carry this on next week. and we'll talk about point of view. And I'm going to just put up some tips online, and we'll carry on this conversation. Okay, thanks very much. We'll see you next week. Enjoy Paul's story, and we'll be talking.